All right, good morning, everybody. It's 8:30. It's time to call the meeting of Tuesday, December 30th to order. And before we do any approval of agenda or anything, I just want to make a couple of comments today. Today is John Everett's last day here with us as a commissioner after 20 very good years. And I want to say that John should be very proud of what's been accomplished in that 20 years. Even though we're partners with other governments like the cities and school districts, one doesn't need to look very far as to what's happened in the recent past with the growth. You can look at Sabin, you can look at Barnesville, you can look at Hawley, you can look at Dilworth, you can look at Moorhead, and you can go on and on and on, and how everything has really improved. And a lot of that has been with the work of John being involved with that. So I want to thank you, John, and at this time, I would like to relinquish the chair today to John.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell.
So you're going to punish him on his last day?
I want him to chair the last meeting.
Yours comes next
Yeah.
month. Okay, thank you.
Oh, did I take? Oh, that's yours. Oh.
Got to get our
Did
coffee
you
cup
switch?
straight.
Did you switch them?
Yeah, I cleared it.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, the agenda is before us for December 30th. I've calculated roughly that this would be some over 1,000, my 1,000th county commission meeting. I figured we've averaged 50 a year. In 20 years, that should be 1,000 meetings of the county commission. And if you add the other meetings that we go to, I figured probably 5,000 meetings we've attended in 20 years. Hey, Wayne.
And all this time, your wife thought you were having a good time.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda for December 30th? Second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion of that motion? Anything to add or delete from the, Brian, anything to change? Nothing? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Agenda is before us. The citizens to be heard. Is there any citizen here that wishes to speak on anything other than what's on the agenda? Doesn't appear to be. We'll move on to approving of payment of the bills and vouchers. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the bills and vouchers. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call a question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay, our 835 item is request for a step increase for Veteran Service Representative. Tom is here to make that formal request.
First, Commissioner Everett, as the Clay County Veteran Service Officer, I respect and want to thank you for your 20 years of service to our county. And I hope you have a very nice retirement.
Thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate that.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I put together and provided everybody here a request to have the position that we now know as the Veteran Service Representative to move up a couple steps to step 7. She was currently at step 5 in a different grade, and then when the grade got promoted to grade 14, then she was reduced back to a 3, and it kind of goes in contradiction with the whole purpose and intent for the promotion, for the upgrade. If you read through that, actually what ended up happening was a 35-cent wage increase, and that is hardly fair for the type of current responsibilities and duties that the individual is performing in that. So my request is simple, and I don't think I'll be taking up too much of your time today, but I do ask the board for permission and the authority to go ahead and move the occupant to step 7.
Mr. Chair, this has been through committee, and we saw that it was all right, spent a lot of time on it, and I so moved what Tom presented in front of us.
Is there a second?
I'd second that, but I've got, where is she at right now, Tom?
She's at grade 14, step 3, so she went backwards a couple steps. And, you know, I think that it's more procedural than anything else. I don't think it was really intended to be that.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Darren, do you have comments about this? Is this appropriate, or why don't you come up?
Just a couple things that, we had a very long discussions on this in the PIC committee, and the determination that the position was more of a new position and thus more complicated, and so that's why we went from a grade 12 to a grade 14 through the complexity of it, and so that's being recognized. I think that moving it to a step 7 is out of the ordinary at this point, because according to our personnel policy, you're looking at probably, if we were to move her to a step 7, you're looking at a 16% increase in wages. Personnel policy says promotion should be between a 5% and a 10%, or no more than a 10%. And nothing against Jennifer, because she's an excellent employee, and she definitely deserves, you know, everything that she gets, but this would be out of the ordinary for the amount of time that she has in the Veteran Service offices. The board has put people on steps 6 and 7 in the past, usually as a new hire, and most of those people have come in with 20 or 25 years of experience. Jennifer has 3.5 years of experience in the job as a veteran service rep, which we renamed the benefit I think it was benefit coordinator or something like that.
Veteran Service Representative. Previously, it was Veterans Benefits Coordinator.
Yeah. And so past practice has been to, and she was a very well employee for 2 years prior to that as the receptionist. So she does have about 5 years in the office itself. But, and I know she has gone to a lot of training as well, but we have, you know, hundreds of other employees that go to a lot of training as well, and could conceivably say, well, I should be placed at a higher step as well. What I did, instead of trying to explain all the net facts and figures and numbers, what I did is I just kind of gave an outline of what our personnel policy says as far as salary administration, and then placement on the salary grid, and then promotions, if we were considering this a promotion, since she's kind of doing that job as well, what that would mean. And then what we've done in the past practices with some other people that we've put at a higher rate coming into the county. And then on the second page here is kind of where she is now for the 2015 grid, and then where she could go from step 3 to step 12, and then the dollars and percentages of increases.
Are we supposed to have those documents?
I'm going to hand that out right now, so. Tom, I'll give you that. And I think, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, are we missing one? Sorry.
So normally, we treated this as a new position, entirely new position, which Jennifer ended up applying for and getting. And in, like Tom said, normally we would allow the director or the manager to place that position on a step 1 to 3. So we came to the board, and now if this was considered a promotion, in the personnel policy, this would say that a promotion has to be at least 5%, but no more than 10%. Like I said, past practices, some of the people that we've hired at steps 7 and 8, as you can see on there, the assessor came in at a step 7, but she had 29 years of experience in that position. The solid waste manager came in at step 8, and he had 30 years of experience in the same same profession. And the detox director, we brought her in at step 6, and she had 10 years of experience as an RN and actually was our detox director for 7 years prior to that. So this would be setting kind of a new precedence of bringing somebody in at a step 7 with about, 3.5 to 5 years of experience in at that point. So, I think that a more logical place to place her would be to if you refer to the second page there, would be a minimum of a step 4 and a maximum of a step 5. That would keep it within the range of the 5% to 10%, as you can see on the dollar and the percentage of increase.
So what would the step 5 be? You mentioned right now that it would have been a 35-cent an hour increase. Is that what a step 5
She was
is?
already at a step 5, and she was moved back 2 steps when this position change took place. She went up 2 grades, but then she went back 2 steps. And
if we would have done a reclassification on this position, then according to the comp study, and this is also based on what the comp study suggests as well, according to the comp study, she would be placed at the new grade at a rate the same as or higher than, what she would be at now. So if let's say we took this position and we said now it's we're going to reclassify this position from a grade 12 to a grade 14, then she would have been taken from where she was on the grade 12 and placed on the grade 14 at the closest wage. There wouldn't be a step increase or anything like that because it wouldn't be considered a promotion. It would be considered a reclassification. So that's kind of why we determined that this position has changed enough that it should be deemed a new position, and a person would apply for it, and advertise and apply for it and interview for it.
Mr. Chair, can I make it?
Yeah, Personnel Committee.
Yeah, you know what, and I, with respect to what Wayne said, in our PIC committee, and I guess we struggled with this on several meetings, and what we did firmly agree to was the changing of that position, creating that new position. We felt that merited that. In terms of the committee supporting step 7, I can't say that we did or did not. To be honest with you, Tom, I thought when we left our last meeting that we were going to have one more meeting of our PIC committee. So I was kind of surprised to see this on the agenda the way it was, because it's not that I don't want to see her go to step 7. It's more of what does this do to everything else within our county that I didn't, while we're in the PIC committee meetings, and maybe Brian can talk about this too as a member of the PIC committee, but how does this dynamic work for every other employee in our county that concerns me, and if there's a way we can do this that's rational and makes sense. But I that's the one difference that I have, I think, in Wayne's motion, was that I don't believe that our PIC committee ever came to the conclusion yet that step 7 was the right way to go. I personally, Tom, I wish this would have come back to the PIC committee so that we could have still ironed this out. I'm not saying that 7 isn't ultimately where she should be, but I don't know that we vetted everything out yet to be sure of that.
Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
Frank?
Well, reading this here, it almost looks to me like you're looking at going from a step 5 to step 3 is it in motion, but it's not really. It just means she's being placed where the rules say she should be placed. It's not
Right.
really a demotion going step 5 to step 3. That's just a matter of the way she falls into the grid. It's not a demotion or promotion. It's just that's the way our county policy says it should be done.
Yeah, for new hires, it gives the director the opportunity to place a new employee at steps 1 through 3. So she could be placed at step 3 right now, just without even having to come to the board.
Right.
But since Tom wants to place her at a higher level of a step 7, then that's what would come to the board. And I think the last PIC meeting that we talked, we were all okay with the grade increase from the 12 to 14, because that was a justifiable increase based on the complexity, the problem, the position, and the number of programs that they work with, the number of veterans that are coming back. And so I think that was agreed upon, that that should move to a 14. But to come and request anything over a step 3 would require board approval, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
So, let's say that she went to 14 with a step 5. How long would it take her to get to step 7 in terms of time?
2 years.
So it's each year you'd go up? a
Yep,
step.
it isn't until you hit step 8 that then it's a 2-year increase.
Okay.
So if she was to go to step 7,
So we could
In 1 year
decide
she
to
would
go
go
to
to
like
the
a step 6, you know, compromise, go to a step 6, and then within a year she'd be at step 7. That would,
every year,
Uh-huh.
once a year.
yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'd
Wayne?
like to hear what Brian has to say.
Well, Mr. Chair and other commissioners that were on the PIC committee, Darren described it very accurately, and I guess so did Commissioner Campbell, in regards to what took place. This has been a long process. It started out as a reclassification consideration. Veteran Service Officer submitted his paperwork to Human Resource and had quite a bit of discussion. They didn't feel that the qualifications for the position had changed that much. Tom felt differently and challenged that rating, so then it came to me, and after we had at least 2 meetings with HR, we decided that the position had changed enough that it was a new position. And that's when it went through PIC committee. PIC committee agreed that it had changed and felt that it would fall in the 14 range, because there is a lot of technical services and things that are done now that weren't done in the past with that position. Am I right, Tom?
Absolutely right, and
And-
a
and
lot of public relations that I don't think was considered when the grade was being considered.
Sure. So that's why the grade changed, and it got the points to it. So it came to the board to go to the grade 14, and then it was a new position. And the department heads have the right to start a individual based on their experience between 1 and 3. Anything after that, they have to come to the board. So I guess that's where it was kind of left at the PIC committee. It probably, since it was a complicated one, probably should have come back to PIC committee for this discussion that we're having right now. But it's been, in the past, it's been the board that decides, you know, if there can be a greater step start. And that's where it's at now.
Well, there's been, too, I know like Jennifer, Tom was gone for an extended period of time, a year or so ago,
Yep.
and she filled in as the Veteran Service Officer, and so from time to time that happens. So I mean, personally, I don't have any problem, you know, elevating the, you know, because I think when you're looking at personnel issues, you know, you're always looking at them on an individual basis. I mean, there isn't, you know, one situation is different from another, and so I think you have to look at them individually and decide, you know, what that particular employee should be at. So, you know, that's where I'm at with it.
So you're
I would support it, yeah.
supporting your motion?
Yeah, the issue isn't, to me, is Jennifer worth it or not? And, you know, everybody here fully supports, and Tom, what you've done and with your department, and we want to support in the future. What's equal important to me is how we treat one employee in comparison with all the other county employees. That's equally important in what we do up here. If I could just simply say, let's put her at step 7, is she worth it? Absolutely. But there is a process here that is equally important, or probably even more so important, and that's that we maintain the integrity of what we do for everybody. And so I'm concerned there. We haven't, like I said, when we have these PIC meetings, that's where we're able to break down and get the details as to why justifications should be made. Grant just put another example out there. Well, she did spend some time covering for Tom for a number of times. All those things, you just can't simply say, well, she's just worth it. From a length of service standpoint, we could say that any of our employees is just worth it to go up another 2 steps. But we have issues, Tom, we have issues, for example, in our public health department, where we have to stray away from what is normal around here because of the hiring that goes on around us. We're subject to things outside, and John, you're well aware of those, where we do have to hire nurses at higher rates than what our policy says we should. So we do venture out of our scales that we have. But there needs to be sound reasoning for it, and all I'm saying is, had we had an opportunity to review this again in PIC committee, we might have had the ability to get more of those sound reasons. I just...
Commissioner,
if I never went there, but
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a suggestion to the board. I'm going to suggest that we go into recess and have a PIC meeting and get this taken care of today. And the reason I say that, I think it could be taken care of today, and if we had a PIC meeting, it would also be done today with John still on the board, instead of prolonging this any longer. So just like
don't know
some
that-
comments about
I'm
that.
not sure if that's appropriate to go into recess. I would think that instead we should table it if we're not sure.
We've got a motion, we can call I'd call for the question, we can vote on that motion and see where we're at, so.
We can, or we could table it and put it back to the PIC committee for future.
before you do that, could I add something?
Yeah, please.
This is a unique situation. If Jennifer, this position, was in a different state, she would be a CVSO, and she would be earning salaries that would be more in line with that. In our particular state, she's not a veteran, so she's not going to be at that, she's not going to be called a CVSO. However, in essence, in reality, she's my deputy, and she does everything pretty much that I do. And I've laid out the case. I've never really agreed with the grade 14 because I felt that I met the standards for a grade 16, and the HR did not agree with it. And so in compromising, I said 14, but I'm not going to budge on the steps. And then that's when I was told, well, then you'll have to go to the full board to get step 7 approved. But this was subjective right from the beginning, and we're talking about this process as if it's not subjective. It was subjective, on HR's part to create the scenario for 14 versus 16. And like I said, in reality, she's a deputy VSO. And I'm not at this point, I'm not asking for the 16, but I am asking for the 7. I think that would only be fair.
Mr. Chair, I agree. It probably should go back to committee for extensive discussion, and I don't know that we would have the time, Commissioner Ingersoll, to recess. You certainly could recess and do that today, but we could also send it back to PIC.
You know what, if I can, being on the PIC committee, I fully respect the motion that was made today, and I don't want to have to go on record today as being a no vote to this. But if it's going to go down today, I would have to do a no vote simply because I need assurances, not because of what we're doing for one employee, but what we're doing for every other employee in our county. That's the issue to me. And so with that respect, if we can go back to PIC and we can iron this out and that it all makes sense, then that's fine. I fully support that. But I don't want to come across that, boy, if I vote against this, I'm against the veterans and I'm against the Veteran Service Office, because there's no way, shape, or form that's the case. And I just want to make that clear.
Frank?
Even if we would go with 16, as Thomas said, he thinks it should have been a 16. We would still have to follow the procedure, so you would place in the level and the step that's commensurate with that. I mean, if we go to a level 16, I looked at she would be a step 1 then.
But I
You're
would have had
giving
the
her-
authority to move her to a 3. And then, but I would have had the authority myself to move her to a 3.
That's still more than what,
And I wouldn't be
What you're
here today if
requesting.
that would have happened.
you know,
But-
I still
but-
think we have to follow our rules.
Mr. Chair, I want to get this thing worked out. Like I said, in my mind, I actually did think, Tom, that we were going to have another PIC meeting where we could have worked this out ahead of time, because it would have been nice for the PIC meeting to actually make a solid recommendation, and I don't see how that we could at this point in time, because we just hadn't vetted it out. So, Mr. Chair, I would move that we table this to allow the PIC committee to meet.
Is there a second to that motion?
I will second that motion.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, table to, after the PIC meeting, or committee has a chance to.
Yeah,
to work on
and, you know, I think, Darren, I don't think we should just delay this. I think if we could have a PIC meeting next Tuesday morning before the meeting, and you know, I wouldn't even be opposed to having this on the agenda that day with the hopes that our PIC committee has resolved it, and then we can come to that meeting, and if not, then we would just have to go another week. I don't think this is going to hurt anybody by waiting another week, Tom, to get this ironed out. And I would want you at that PIC meeting, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, next we have a public hearing. We're now 15 minutes late for
Sorry.
that. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to open the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, we call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Laurie?
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is basically just a technicality. This is the 2-year abatement program that you approved in 2012. And the list of, we're required to have a hearing listing all the parcels that are eligible for payable 2015, as well as the total amount of the proposed abatements. And the total amount that we've come up with is $218,944, and again, that's just an estimate at this point. But you can see there's a lot of parcels that have qualified for this, and the majority of those are new construction, not just additions to buildings or anything, so basically new houses.
So, Lori, how does this compare with what we had anticipated?
We had guessed about 175,000, but we had some bigger buildings come in and a lot of homes in Dilworth that we hadn't anticipated that there would be that many.
This isn't a bad thing, is it?
No, it's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out.
Definitely a good thing.
So we need to see if there's anybody who wishes to testify
Right.
in the hearing. Anybody wish to speak to this issue? Anybody at all that wants to come up and speak to the issue? Okay, if nobody has to speak, what action are we needing after the hearing is done?
Just approve the resolution.
Okay.
I would move to close hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close the hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay, Mr. Campbell. You wish to make you?
Sure, yeah, I would move to authorize the tax statements as presented. Is that okay?
Just approval of the
Draft.
resolution.
Oh, the draft resolution, yeah, that's right. It's
Second.
here.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Everybody say aye.
Aye.
Wishes, nay for those opposed. Motion carried. Okay, we should be done.
Well, I'm next.
Yeah, yes, well, that's on to the next thing. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Lori.
Okay, so we do have a couple of year-end interfund transfers, so we don't fall into a negative cash position on 2 funds this year. The county project's debt retirement, and we would be able to reimburse the revenue fund at the end of the bond issue, but right now, we've made more bond payments than tax payments have come in. So we're looking for a $50,000 temporary transfer until we get into a positive cash flow.
Is that the capital improvement
Right.
fund?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to do each of them separately,
No,
or do we do
that's
them together?
And then the second one is Family Service Center. If you recall, we did not budget any transfer for payable 2014. We still are at a negative cash flow right now. Right now, it's at about 175, but we anticipate, for sure, got about a $90,000 journal entry to be done and a few tax payments. So I'm estimating it'll be actually about a $50,000 deficit, but I'd just like a little bit of leeway, so I'm asking for up to a $100,000 transfer.
And that number in the past has been way higher than that.
Correct, and that's when we've had a
Right.
a budgeted transfer,
Right.
and so that would be even after that.
Okay, just to explain this a bit, every year, in the last meeting of the year, we need to make sure that there's no accounts that have a negative balance. And we need to make transfers from the general account into those accounts in order to satisfy that requirement. So here we have two, one for $50,000 for debt retirement, and the other $100,000, up to $100,000 for Family Service Center. Everybody understand that? Is there a?
Yeah, I would move the requested interfund transfers.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to do the interfund transfers as required. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're done. Thank you. Okay, look, Nate's here today. We've got David on vacation, or?
No, he's taking his son to a doctor appointment.
Oh, okay. Okay, we're looking at approval to sponsor and co-apply for state safe routes to school and the TAP grant for Glendon project.
That's correct. If you'll recall, in 2018, we're looking at reconstructing Park Avenue, which is our County Road 117 in the city of Glendon. That project will include removing the existing pavement, regrading it, upgrading the ditches to storm sewers, and placing sidewalk and a potential bike path through the city of Glendon from Trunk Highway 10 down to about a mile south to where our County Road 117 turns to the west. I believe that's 12th Avenue or 12th Street in Glendon. That project, we've been working with the city for quite a while, looking at possible ways to help with the funding splits. And one thing that we've come up with is through the application for the Transportation Alternatives Program and then the Safe Routes to School Program. The project budget for our total project is $2.75 million. What we're looking at is to utilize the Transportation Alternatives Program to fund about $423,000 of that through a cost share. That would pay for the 10-foot wide trail. The sidewalk is basically what it is, the 10-foot wide sidewalk. 5-foot sidewalk on the opposite side, lighting, pedestrian markings to improve crossing visibility near the school in Glendon. And then we would also look at putting in a pair of solar powered school zone signs at each end to notify the public that there is an active school zone, which brings that total TAP grant request up to the $423,000. So that would be the first resolution in there is basically stating that we are willing to be a sponsor and a co-applicant. Actually, we're going to be a co-applicant, but the first resolution is for sponsoring the project through the TAP program.
Okay, Nate, just one question. Is there any curb and gutter involved at all in this?
Yeah,
Is it
there will be,
by the
yes.
school, or?
The whole
The whole way
stretch,
will
we're
be?
looking at
Oh,
curb and gutter.
okay.
Curb and gutter and then
The
storm.
ditches will be eliminated then, is it?
We would have to in order to put the sidewalk in.
Yeah.
So is that on that road?
That is County Road 117, yep.
Okay, one second.
Is that gonna be for the whole mile I probably didn't quite follow you.
Correct.
From State Street all the way down to 12th Street?
Correct, yep. It would be for the whole mile. We're looking at doing that.
Okay.
putting in curb and gutter and storm sewer
It's a
and then
beautiful-
trail.
Sounds like a beautiful improvement for the city. That's
It-
yes.
Yeah, Nathan, you said we'd be a co-sponsor on this, and that, so a portion, the total project cost is what?
Well, the total project cost is 2.75 million, but the portion that's eligible for TAP funds would be around 600 and some thousand, and that's and then you reduce that down at an 80-20 split.
So-
federal, state split.
So the portion that is not coming out of the TAP funds, is total project, is how many dollars would that be?
The total project is the 2.75 million,
But you'd be getting TAP money for part of that,
hopefully, yeah,
if you get the
if we're
grant.
successful.
So that would drop it down to like, what, 2.1?
Correct, and then we would take that, whatever is received from the TAP funds, we would split with the city of Glendon through a MOU.
Okay, so then what portion of the remaining project would be county responsibility in terms of, and I guess where I'm going with this, Nathan, I see in here that you're looking at a fiscal 2018 construction period.
Correct.
And was this project on our 5-year plan?
It is.
Oh, it is on their plan, okay. All right, then, that was my concern, was this something new outside the plan?
No, this is project number 30 in the 5-year plan.
All right.
Yep. And I guess if you recall, we were looking at taking County Road 117 and potentially redesignating that to a county state aid road.
Right.
Be County State Aid Road 19. We've delayed that process because we're trying to receive bridge bond funds to complete the bridge that's in Glendon.
We were also looking at doing that with County 95 potentially.
Correct. Yep, that was part of that whole
Okay.
swap.
Okay,
Well, this is for the application.
Yes.
I would move that we
move the
forward.
resolution for sponsoring agency agreement?
Yes. Mhm.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Frank seconds the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Okay, we got one more resolution to look at.
Yeah, one more for the TAP process, and that would be a resolution stating that we will maintain the facility once it's constructed. We will also be working with the city of Glendon to develop a resolution in which they would actually take care of the maintenance as a part of the project. So we're stating that the facility will be maintained, because we're the sponsoring agency, we have to state that we're going to maintain it, but we're going to write a separate agreement with the city of Glendon to state that ultimate responsibility for snow removal, repairs of the sidewalk will be theirs.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move Resolution 2014-56.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Okay.
Very good.
There's a third resolution. There's a third resolution with regard to...
Oh, the one that came, yes, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Separate sheet, all right.
Yep. The third resolution is for a separate grant application that we're submitting at the same time. We will not be eligible to receive both grants. Essentially, what will happen is if we do get selected, we'll either get selected for one or the other. The other grant, the Safe Routes to School grant, as you can see in the literature you were provided, the city has already applied for a Safe Routes to School planning grant, and they received that grant. This grant would be similar to the Transportation Alternatives Program, except that it's not federally funded. It goes through the state aid process, which is considerably simpler for us to administrate. It again would request about the same amount of money. And then we would be applying for the same project in 2018. And this resolution is basically stating that we are a co-applicant and would be a sponsor for the project.
Okay, looking at resolution 2014-57 this time.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, Grant moves, is there a second?
Second.
Frank seconds the motion. Any discussion on that resolution? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. All right,
Thanks, guys.
very good. Thank you, Nathan. Okay, Darren's back up again.
Morning again.
Number of personnel issues to resolve for the end of the year.
Hopefully this will be a little bit less contentious. The end-of-year items that I have for you today is, of course, the grid adjustment that I've updated to reflect the 2% for the county grid, the county administrator, the elected officials, and the variable hour grids have all been updated with the 2% increase. The meal reimbursement rates, I did not get any guidance on changing those, so they would continue to be breakfast $8, lunch $12, and dinner $17. That would be reimbursement for people who are claiming those costs. The mileage reimbursement for 2015 is based on the IRS mileage rates, and that was increased from, it was increased to 57.5 cents per mile this year, or for 2015.
Long before they will reduce that because of...
They're always
fuel price.
behind
Yeah.
a little bit because last year it went down a little bit. I think it was at 56.5.
It wouldn't necessarily be the whole year, though.
Do they do that annually,
They
or
can
no?
do it, they can do it
Normally
anytime.
annual.
can't they?
Well, I believe they can do it anytime, but it's
I know
normally
there are
annually.
times when it changed
Right.
mid,
Yeah.
going up, it changed
Yeah.
mid-season, so
Because the gas prices are going down now, but this is set
long ago.
beforehand, so. And then I did not do the change in the per diem rates of $75 per day.
Yeah, we do. Okay,
Okay?
excuse me, what did you just say now?
And the per diem rates,
Yes,
$75 per day.
75, yeah.
Yes.
I would, we've been at $75 for many, many years, and I would like you to entertain increasing that. There's a number of other boards and commissions that I know get $100 now. Doesn't have to be that big an increase either, but I think that's something we should consider, because 75 has been there for many, many years. I can't remember when it was raised. Do you remember? Yeah. So that's one. And the other thing is that we need to change and get Kevin up to the same place everybody else is. He was very kind to not accept their pay raise about 10 years ago. And,
Mr. Chair,
yeah,
I'm going to move that Commissioner Campbell be equalized with the rest of us.
that his wage be set the same
Yes.
as every other commissioner.
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Very good. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
You lost this time.
There was no motion ever made before.
Well, on John's recommendation, I'll move to increase the per diem to $100.
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to raise the per diem to $100 per meeting, per day. It is. We sometimes have 3 or 4 meetings in the same day, and it's still 1 per diem. So, any discussion on that?
Yeah, Mr. I wish I could have had more information on that. I know it's been quite some time. As a matter of fact, I think it was myself that made a motion several years ago to go to the $75. But that was in place of the other proposal that was out there that raised the annual salary part, and I wasn't as favorable to that as I was to this, but that's going from 75 to 100 that's a pretty significant increase. There's certainly times, obviously, with the number of committees that we're all on, and it seems a lot of mine, I have multiple committee meetings one day, and you're restricted to 1 a day. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. But on the days where you just have 1 meeting and it might be a 45-minute meeting, I think that's a little bit strong, and I don't know where the happy medium is there. But I just think from going from 75 to 100 is a bit much.
I would, excuse me.
Yes, Frank.
I would have to agree with that. I mean, I would just look at the fact that we're already getting paid a daily wage or whatever as a commissioner. I mean, we're already getting paid.
$12 an hour. It's,
Whatever it is, we're already getting paid to be a commissioner. You know, then add, if we have to attend a meeting that day. I mean, if we don't attend a meeting, we still get that money, and, I don't know, it just seems like a big raise. I mean, I agree, sometimes you're at a meeting all day, and sometimes the meetings are only 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever the case may be, you know, but some days you do have 3 meetings, but there's a lot of days there are no meetings, and it's just, I don't know. It seems like a big raise.
Any other comments?
Would you call the roll, please, Mr. Chair?
Sure, I'll call the roll. Yeah. Well, I will have Vicki call the roll.
Grant,
Aye.
Kevin,
Nay.
Frank,
Nay.
Wayne,
Aye.
John.
Aye. That carried then. Motion carried. Okay, thank you. I can attest that over the last 20 years, we've not been overpaid.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Kevin has been underpaid for a while.
Well, he has been underpaid for a while, that's right. But that was his choice initially. Yes.
If we hadn't voted on it today, he's still.
Okay, we still have the other things to.
Okay, the last thing is the furlough program.
Yes.
This has been a very successful program. The county gets back probably about $25,000 to $28,000 per year of people using the furlough program. We changed it a couple years ago to allow employees to use 144 hours of furlough per year. Some people take advantage of it on a regular basis, others do not, of course, but I'd have no changes for the 2015 furlough policy. It would remain at 144 hours per year, and that would be prorated for, depending on the FTE, that would be one FTE. But there's no changes to the 2015 furlough policy.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, back when we instituted the furlough program, it had a lot to do with budget constraints was significant, and I'm not, we're certainly not under budget constraints that we were then, right? Because, I mean, all entities, we were seeing lost revenues from the state and the federal government big time, and we were forced to find internal ways to offset some of those lost dollars that we got from the federal and state. However, if something is still good, it should still be in place. And I personally believe that the furlough program is a good program to have, whether you're in budget dire straits or not. You know, but do you feel the same way? And how do the employees feel about it?
Well, I do, and you know, I always give the example of, you know, if somebody doesn't have a lot of vacation, but they want to take a week of vacation, but let's say they only have 3 days of vacation or 4 days of vacation, they can use that extra furlough day to take, you know, that extra day and complete the week. So I think it is a benefit to the employees. If they choose to use that, we're not forcing it on them. And those that use it seem to use it on a regular basis. So I think it's a win-win for both the county and our employees. And it still takes supervisor approval. You know, the furlough program is not set up to say, well, I want to take 144 hours of furlough next month, but it's used to kind of augment and supplement vacation balances and that type of thing. So.
And it does certainly save us some money each year.
Correct, yeah. I think the last time I looked, it was about $25,000 a year in wages that we did not have to pay.
We'll need that to cover this increase per diem.
Exactly. And your salary.
Hey, don't blame that on me.
Okay.
Brian, I don't know if Brian wanted to comment.
Yeah, I wanted to find out too if Brian had any comments.
I did, Mr. Chair, but Darren filled it in at the end. This is a managerial discretion item as well. If the work is there and needed to be done and you're stretched, you can deny that furlough.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's been very useful tool. I think frankly, it's good for employee morale. Some that are getting close to retirement like to take the extra time, and I think that's a good preparation too, so.
Well,
It's
Mr.
been
Chair, I
good.
would move the 2015 furlough program.
Second.
Well, okay, that's fine, we'll do one at a time. We haven't acted on the other things yet either,
Oh.
so.
I thought we did.
Well, the only one we've acted on is the per diem.
Oh, I see.
And, but we'll accept that motion
Okay.
for approving the 2015 furlough program. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
And we might as well do, I would also move to approve the IRS mileage rate increase.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for the mileage rate increase. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no.
And I'd also move the salary grade adjustments for 2015 as well as the meal reimbursement rates.
Very
As
good.
is.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded for the salary grade adjustments and for the meal reimbursement rates. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. I have one question on the per diem rates. We've talked, we acted on for the commissioners. What's the rate currently? Did we increase that last year for the other citizens? I can't remember what it went up to.
It went to $50, Mr. Chair,
To 50?
and that was just last year.
That was just last year. Okay, all right.
I take it these rates are gonna be effective for January 1st.
That's right.
We didn't put out the motion, but I take it that's all
Yeah, it's all
figured out. I mean, but is our budget gonna have to be adjusted for that, or, I mean, it's gonna,
That's why we did the furlough program, so we could come up with the money.
I see, okay. We can take furloughs once in a while. Thank you, I didn't
Well,
know that,
our
Kevin.
budget certainly has the 2% in, and nothing else was changed, while the mileage was changed, but that's slight, so.
Well, the per diem wasn't.
Well, right, but I mean, those things, I don't think there's any budget problems with any of them. Brian, you have any?
Well, Mr. Chair, were they budgeted at the higher rate? No, they weren't. But that is, I'd like to say it's insignificant in the total budget. I mean, for example, the commissioner's budget's around 2.25, I think, 225,000. So it would have a very small amount of effect on that.
Well,
So
the
let's
largest
hope
item
we're
is the
within that.
2%, and that was budgeted.
That was budgeted. Yep.
Okay, any other comments about the whole process here? Thank you, Darren.
Okay. I think I'm up next.
You get the next one, too? Oh, yes. That's right, ratification of law enforcement legal services contract 141 labor agreement with Clay County deputies from 2015 to 2017.
And we did have contract negotiations with several of the bargaining units this year. We had social workers, case aides, attorneys, and law enforcement deputies. We have settled with the deputies, which is the labor agreement that we have in front of you right now for approval, for your approval. Some of the highlights of it, there wasn't a lot of changes, actually. The wage increases that we were looking at is 2% for 15, 2% for 16, and 3.25% for 17. That was discussed earlier with closed session with our labor attorney before. The other changes within the contract is that we specified exactly, more clearly on what a probationary employee can and cannot grieve. Basically, they can grieve anything except a dismissal. The union was okay with that, so that we wouldn't have that cost of attorney fees, labor relation, all of that for a probationary employee that was dismissed due to whatever the reason. So that was added to the contract. I think that's probably a benefit for the county. The other change to the contract was we had some discussion on when a deputy is called to court during his off time. So let's say I'm a deputy and I'm supposed to report for court on my day off, which would be tomorrow. They may be notified, shortly before that court date that they're no longer needed. Maybe the case has been settled or whatever the case may be. And so the union proposed that if the court case is dismissed for the following day, the deputy should be notified by 4:30 the day prior, if they're not on duty, if that makes sense. Meaning, if they call you at 10 o'clock at night and say, oh, don't bother coming in tomorrow, the court case has been settled, then they would be paid 2 hours of straight time for that. If they're notified before 4:30 that the case has been settled for the following day, then they would receive nothing at that point. And the reasoning behind this is that people make plans.
Sure,
And if they're on their day off, they want to make plans, but, you know, they want a little bit of advance notice. And so we kind of made it towards the end of the day prior. And we did have some conversations with the attorney's office. They didn't think that would be a huge problem or a huge impact because, you know, if it isn't canceled the day after, then they would be paid their normal pay to come in.
For
So,
2 hours.
yeah.
I'll move to approve the contract.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the contract as stated. Any discussion?
The only other thing that they did was, we added some language that the union agreed to be able to open up negotiations if there were any changes to the health care benefits program based on the Affordable Care Act. It allows us or them to reopen negotiations to discuss those things. If it comes up that the county is being taxed or fined or whatever, we can open up the negotiations again to handle that cause. And also an increase of $75 for the plainclothes employees from from $450 to $525. That clothing allowance hasn't been changed since 2007, so it's probably a appropriate increase. And it may have been before 2007. I could just go back to 2007 and see that it was still at $450 back then. So those are the changes within the contract.
Okay.
I just got one question. What prompted 3.25%? I mean, what are we looking at 3 years down the road that the cost of living is going to go up that much? Or, I mean, compared to the other 2 years? Is there any certain things that came up that prompted that, or?
Well, when we were in closed session with the labor attorney before, several weeks ago, when we had all the proposals on the table, I think it was the determination that things are getting better and that a lot of the counties are starting to give a little bit higher COLAs during those out years. And I think doing the 2.2 and 3.25 was kind of a concession to that, maybe. And like anything else, 3 years out is hard to determine where everything is going to be.
Yeah, I
But
realize
we've
that.
been at 2% for several years now, and I think we were at 0% back in 2012, 11 or 12.
Yeah,
A couple of years.
You know, and speaking to that, Mr. Chairman, it's okay. I think the, I've been a fan of these 3-year contracts. I like them. I like them from this standpoint that if you were to have anything shorter, it can become more difficult and also become more expensive in the long run with everything else that you have to do to maintain a contract. I agree with you, Frank, in the question of the 3.25. What do we have to justify that, so to speak?
Yeah.
Well, I think while we're in our bargaining sessions, you know, I heard enough information there based on, you know, we do look to other counties as well with some of our stuff, and keep in mind our whole grid system was put together with the idea in mind with comparable counties and what they do. And if you don't stay somewhat consistent, you're eventually going to run into real problems, you know, in other areas. So I would venture to say that in 2017, we're not going to be the only county that's going to have 3.25. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some that are higher.
I think to Commissioner Gross, there's a, in order to get the two, you know, you need to offer something to get them to accept. We got 2 years with a 2% increase, which I think probably is very fair for everybody.
Yeah.
But you probably wouldn't get that agreement if you hadn't made a promise of something else down the road. So,
Yeah.
part of negotiations, it's just the way it works.
And
so.
I think Commissioner Campbell's right when they did the comp study, for those counties that don't keep up with comparables or comparables, you know, then we start falling behind, and then we end up doing another comp study and finding ourselves paying a lot of money to bring everybody back up to speed.
Right.
So if we're keeping the comparables with us, when we have to do another comp study, you know, it's not going to have as big of an impact on
And in fairness
that.
to Commissioner Gross, you know, we did go through some of these comp studies just shortly before you came on as commissioner. And there were a couple of our union contracts where, when we did this, we found that we were quite a bit behind the pace, and so it did cost us some money up front to get back to being more competitive or equal with our comparable counties, and then moving forward. So I think this just helps alleviate that. Now, the one thing, law enforcement was not one of those in the past. Law enforcement seems to always been fairly good, but.
Yeah. There is a MOU out there as well. If you remember, the last contract was the one that we brought them onto the county grid. And to do that, we also, of course, the sergeants are on the deputy union as well and on the grid, but they get an additional $2.65 for being a sergeant. And then the deputy first class pay was also increased 2%. So the sergeant pay was increased 2%, and the deputy first class pay was increased 2% as well. I did not see that MOU in there, and I have to look for that. It was there, it was agreed upon, but I didn't see it in the packet, so I'll have to get that as well for signature.
Your assumption is that stays in?
Correct. And you're not, it's 5 cents, I think, per hour for those.
Okay, Brian, do you have any comments?
No, Darren's right, that MOU is ongoing, so that increase is 2%. And that was a good deal, rather than negotiating that every time, too, so.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments about the resolution to approve this agreement? If not, we will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for a good year.
Thank you. And same to you. Good luck.
Thank you. Okay, next item is requesting to fill a position in the Health Promotion Division. Public Health Administrator Kathy McKay, and Gina Nolte is here as well. Did you hear a lot?
Good morning.
Aren't you hear a
Well,
lot for requests?
I thought there was a request that I come just about every week, wasn't there? I don't know where that came from. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's your turnover rate?
Well, it must be difficult to work with. Oh, this position is under Gina's, so, you know.
Well, we don't see her
I'll just share the morning.
We don't see her very often.
That's what I thought. She should come over so you
All
can
right.
remember who she is. This is a full-time position, grant-funded, as I put in your packets, with the Tobacco Prevention Project under the Health Promotion Division. So we received a resignation last week, so I'm requesting that we fill a full-time position.
Okay,
Yes,
so it's
that's
been fully budgeted for,
Fully budgeted, grant-funded.
and will it be actually a decrease in cost somewhat by hiring somebody that's,
It might be,
less experienced.
depending on who
We
we
get,
receive for applicants. We would certainly advertise internally and externally.
Mr. Chair,
yes?
I move what Kathy is asking for today.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to fill this, give permission to fill this position as requested. Gina, you must have something to say about it.
Why ruin a good thing?
You don't want us to be wondering if it's a good. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for your service, Mr.
And Happy New
Everett. It's
Year.
your last
Yep.
day,
Thank you.
so appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
We'll miss you.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports. Probably aren't a lot of them this last week.
If I have any.
Grant?
None for me.
Kevin?
We had a jail committee meeting, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. That was-
Yeah, we had a jail committee meeting, or didn't we? That was
We talked about that before, last meeting.
Yeah.
the
and that was-
23rd.
And we, yeah, that was after we met.
Yeah,
We met on the 23rd, so.
Was that right after the last board meeting?
yes.
Okay.
I-
Oh, yeah, it was about the issue, yeah.
Oh.
You're right, it was about the county attorney's issue that we met with the county
Yeah.
attorney.
Yeah.
We'll be bringing
That was
something
home
forward.
monitoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a home,
Yeah.
it was, it had to do with home monitoring.
Yes,
But we'll
yes.
have more information coming on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other?
No, I had no other meetings.
Wayne?
Christmas week.
no meetings, Mr. Chair.
My gosh, sounds like we didn't do anything to earn our pay last week. We celebrated Christmas, I guess that was what we did. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have down that home monitoring meeting, yes. That we did meet with the county attorney, the jail committee members of the board, and myself and Brian Melton met. And there'll be more information coming forward on that, but the discussion there is what has happened over the last, since 2000, since 99 or 2000, the county had engaged in sponsoring the home monitoring program with reimbursements from the individuals, and the court was assessing that and collecting the fees on it, and they have chosen not to do that anymore, and then the discussion was should it shift to the county attorney's office, or should it be eliminated, county sponsored. There's no other county in the state that does that program, so there will be more to come on that, but that's kind of just to give you kind of a heads up on what we discussed there. And then we had new orientation on Monday, which your new county commissioner-elect attended yesterday, so we had 3 other employees involved in that, and I think it went well. And I guess just a lot of year-end work that we're working on right now. But I guess more importantly, I wanted to say thank you, Commissioner Everett, for, I've been here 4.5 years and really have enjoyed the work with you and the board. And I've said it to you before, I think you are really a neutralizing conduit, and I could say that to every one of you, because none of you like to get off and fight, let's say.
What do you mean?
Well, I was holding comments on him before, but he keeps talking a bit. No, but I think it's really been a joy to be here for the last 4.5 years and serve with you and for you in the board, and it's just been a really magnificent board to work for, and you've been a huge part of that, and I appreciate that fact, and wish you the best of luck in your future plans.
Thank you, Brian. Vicki, you have anything to reply? Well, I have just a few comments I want to make. We're not much over time here, so. First of all, I want to thank everybody for the 20 years. It's been, first of all, the citizens of the county. I appreciate very much the confidence that was placed in me these 20 years, and for the opportunity to serve. It's been a good ride. I've enjoyed it. It's been very meaningful and very rewarding over these years. I want to also thank the staff. I think we have a staff that's second to none. They make us look good, and we appreciate very much the hard work that the staff puts in, and I certainly appreciate Vicki's work. It took me a few years to realize that I don't need to save any papers. I don't need to remember a whole lot. All I do is ask Vicki, and she knows everything that happened over the last 20 years. And that's very much appreciated. It would be very difficult to do this job without somebody like you in that office, and we thank you very much, Vicki. We had a great ride with our with our current administrator. Brian has done a super job for us. Before then, I worked those 16 and a half years with, or 17 years, I guess, with VJ Sethi, and VJ was tops. He was just really a great administrator, did good work for us, and just have a couple, three things more to say, and that's what VJ seemed to tell us every time we asked him for a comment.
Just a couple more things, Mr. Chairman.
A couple, three things, he'd say, yeah. Anyway, I wanted to thank the commissioners, both present and past commissioners, for the great team that we've been able to put together. I was telling Kevin a little bit ago that of the over 1,000 county commission meetings that I have attended in these 20 years, I don't think there's more than a half a dozen that I wish I hadn't been at. I mean, I think they've all been positive. There's, of course, a few where we had some strong disagreements, and some commissioners were more difficult than others to work with. But right now, we've got a good team here, and I think we welcome Jenny to it. I think she will find this team very good to work with, and we thank all of you for your good work. I can't think of anything over the last 20 years that would have been more rewarding and fulfilling for me than this time that I've spent here. There are times when people would say something, suggest things like running for the legislature or something, and I, this is a much better job. We're able to make decisions cooperatively and don't have the divisiveness that others are experiencing, and that's really a wonderful experience. And over the years, I've certainly discovered that 5 heads make much better decisions than 1. And even though we sometimes don't get the way we think we should go on it, you look back on it, and those decisions of 5 people is much stronger than what 1 person could have decided alone. So I'm grateful for that opportunity as well. And I'd like to ask our Commissioner-elect, Jenny, if she has any comments. You've been with us now for watching us and observing us for the last 2 months at least, and before then, I think, on computer and television. Why don't you come up and sit up here and tell us a bit about what you're thinking right now.
Well, I just thank you for the wonderful example that you've all shown all of us in the county, and I just look forward to working with you and working for the county and with the great staff that we have in place. And thank you, John, for what you've done for our community and our county and really our state with the representation that you've shown. So I'm excited and look forward to next week and the future.
Very good. And I've told Jenny and the rest of this too that she gets sworn in on the 6th and sworn out on the 7th.
Welcome to the club.
Although I have to give the citizens credit, there have been very few irrational or angry citizens that have called me or talked to me, and just about in every case that where somebody has been extremely angry or overly zealous, maybe we should say, in their comments, it's been connected with alcohol. And other than that, people have been very respectful, and I thank people for that good thing. And I'm very proud to turn over the reins to Jenny. I think she'll do a good job for us, and we've known, our families have been connected forever. And we have a great deal of respect for her family's heritage in politics and in government, and I think she'll carry that on very, very well. So, Wayne.
Mr. Chair, I would also like to thank you for your service to Clay County, and I think it's been very obvious to everyone here and throughout the county how gracious you have been to Jenny, and that many times is not seen in a turnover when one person takes over from another person. And I think we all want to compliment you on that. You have set a prime example. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. So, All right, I think we're ready to, I hesitate, because, you know, this is the last,
You know, we can go till 5.
4:30.
Oh, 4:30.
Yeah, we'd have staff leaving before. Anyway, we call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Al.